Brothers, listen. Pine logs crackle in the fireplace. The smell of hot coffee hangs in the air, and the winter wind outside the cabin cuts like a blade. Folks think leaving the battlefield means the war is over, but you and I both know the truth. Peace is often just a thin coat of paint. Sometimes the silence is worse than gunfire, because silence gives the ghosts of the past a place to sit down beside you. Some nights, even the safe zone gets a knock from the monster you thought you left behind. A deserted road under a bridge in Cleveland. A tiny black puppy standing dead center in the lane. No barking, no running, just eyes that begged and warned at the same time. So I had to breach, step out, follow those tracks into a storm drain, see drag marks etched into slush and a child's mitten left behind, and then catch two flashlight beams moving closer in the dark. When you're pinned to the wall, what do? Run or fight? Hold the line or look away? Sit down with me. Take a sip. Hey, the full story of a retired SEAL, a watchful dog, and a small puppy that forced a guardian to stand up again and pull a survival lesson out of the cold. Footprints on ice. Snow drifted across the Cleveland waterfront, thin and stubborn. Lake Erie wind pushed through the bridge beams, turning empty streets into a long, cold whistle. Cole Bennett walked the service road beside an abandoned freight station, moving with the quiet patience of a man who had learned not to waste motion. He was a tall, broad-shouldered white American in his early 40s, built solid but worn around the edges. His face was angular, jaw square, nose straight, forehead slightly high. A neatly trimmed beard framed his mouth, and a few silver strands at his temples caught the weak streetlight. His dark brown eyes looked warm until something sharpened them. Then they became knives. His left knee made itself known with every other step. Not enough to stop him, enough to remind him who he used to be. He wore the same outfit he always wore in winter, a navy coat cut to mid-thigh, a red and black plaid flannel shirt underneath, faded jeans, and brown, low-ankle leather boots. It was practical. It was familiar. It was armor without pretending to be. At his side moved Ranger, a 5-year-old German shepherd with a black and tan coat, upright ears, and amber-brown eyes that never truly rested. Ranger's posture was controlled, alert, quiet. A simple vest marked him as a service dog, the words visible even in the dark, though Ranger did not act like a mascot or a display. Ranger acted like a partner. Cole had once been Navy SEAL. Now he was a man trying to live normally in a city that did not care about his past. He worked security jobs, kept his circle small, and avoided the kind of trouble that used to find him by design. Tonight, trouble found him anyway. Ranger slowed first. Not a bark, not a growl. Just a shift in the leash tension and a body angle that cut Cole's path by half a step. Cole stopped. His eyes followed Ranger's gaze. Under the bridge, near a storm drain that fed into a concrete maze, a small black shape slid across the ice and planted itself in the middle of the path. A puppy. It was black from nose to tail, small enough that the wind made it tremble. Its fur looked damp at the edges, as if it had been out here for a long time. It did not run away. It did not wag. It stared straight at Cole with bright, urgent eyes, then flicked its gaze toward the drain. Cole waited for the puppy to do what most frightened animals did: bolt. The puppy did the opposite. It stepped closer, then turned, then looked back again. Follow. Ranger did not move, but his ears lifted higher. His eyes narrowed, not with aggression, but with focus. Ranger looked the way he did when he saw something that did not belong. Cole's breath fogged. He kept his voice low, calm, almost casual. "Where's your people, little one?" The puppy answered by padding a few steps toward the storm drain, stopping and looking back again as if Cole was the one being slow. Cole scanned the area. No cars, no footsteps, only snow whispering over asphalt and the distant sound of water hitting metal somewhere along the docks. In another life, he would have called it in and waited. In another life, he would have followed protocol and kept his hands clean. But the puppy was not begging for food. It was not lost in the usual way. It was directing him. Cole crouched, letting his weight settle carefully because of his knee, and studied the snow. That was when he saw it. A drag mark. Not deep like a heavy crate, not clean like a sled. Uneven, broken, like something had been pulled by force and caught on rough ground. Then he saw something smaller, half buried near the edge of the drain. A child's mitten, pale pink, frozen stiff. Cole's throat tightened, and the present slipped sideways into memory. 3 years ago, a phone lit up at 2 a.m. A name he should have answered. He told himself he would call back after the shift, after he slept, after he could think straight. He never called. The next time he heard that name, it came with a different tone and a different ending. The kind of ending that stays under your ribs and waits for quiet moments to speak. Cole had tried to bury the guilt. He had tried to live like a man who did not carry a private list of should have. But a tiny mitten in the snow had a way of making a man honest. Ranger nudged Cole's hand with his nose, a steady, grounding touch. Ranger's eyes stayed fixed on the drain. The puppy made a faint sound, not quite a whine, then slipped between the bars and vanished into the darkness below. Cole stood slowly. He looked around again, measuring the world with the instincts he pretended he no longer had. He could call the police. He could wait for someone with a flashlight and a checklist. He pictured minutes passing. He pictured cold closing in around a small body. He looked down at Ranger. Ranger did not pull. Ranger did not panic. Ranger simply held still, as if he trusted Cole to decide. Cole exhaled once, steady and controlled. "All right," he murmured, more to himself than the dog. "We're doing this." He gripped the edge of the drain opening, tested the stability, then lowered himself carefully, bracing his injured knee. The cold bit through his gloves. The smell rising from below was damp concrete and rust. Ranger stepped in after him without hesitation, silent as a shadow, the service dog vest brushing the metal as he slipped through. Above them, the streetlight glow faded. Below them, the darkness opened. Cole did not know who had left the mitten. He did not know why a puppy had become a guide. He only knew this. If something down there needed help, he would not be the man who looked away. Not again. The tunnel and the breath. Cold air pooled under the bridge like trapped smoke. Snowmelt dripped somewhere above, and the lake wind made the storm drain moan, as if the city itself was warning anyone smart enough to listen. Cole Bennett lowered his boots onto the damp concrete and let his eyes adjust. The light from above thinned fast, turning the world into grays and hard edges. His navy winter coat brushed the wall as he steadied himself, the red and black plaid flannel visible at his throat when he leaned forward. His left knee complained the moment his weight shifted, a deep ache that never fully left him, but he kept moving anyway. Ranger slipped in behind him without hesitation. The German shepherd's black and tan coat caught the faint light like polished wood. Upright ears tracked every sound. His amber-brown eyes stayed wide and focused, calm but ready. A simple vest marked him as a service dog, nothing flashy, just clear. Ranger did not bark. He did not rush. He moved like a professional. Cole took one breath and tasted rust, wet concrete, and something older, like the tunnel had been holding its secrets for years. Ahead, a small black shape flickered in and out of the darkness. Pepper. The puppy's paws made almost no sound. He trotted a few steps, stopped, looked back, then trotted again. Every pause felt deliberate, like Pepper was checking whether Cole was still coming, whether Cole was still choosing. Cole angled his flashlight down the tunnel. The beam revealed shallow water running through a narrow channel, trash caught against the wall, and footprints in the damp grit. Human footprints. Fresh. His pulse tightened. He kept his face still. Ranger's body shifted half an inch. Not forward, not back. Just enough to signal that Ranger saw the same thing. They moved deeper. The air grew colder, heavier. Water clicked against metal. Somewhere far away, a train horn sighed and faded, like a reminder that normal life still existed above them. Then Ranger stopped. No sound, no growl, just a hard stop, muscles tight beneath his coat. Cole froze instantly, letting Ranger lead the moment. He listened. At first, he heard only water. Then he heard it. A small, uneven sound, like someone trying not to make noise and failing. A sob. Cole lowered his flashlight beam and swept it slowly across the tunnel. The light caught a pile of plastic bins and broken pallets pushed against a corner. In the narrow gap behind them, something moved. Pepper darted forward and disappeared into the gap. Cole stepped closer, careful with his knee, careful with his breath. He crouched and aimed the light low so it would not blind whoever was hiding. A child stared back at him. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, small and thin under a puffy winter jacket that looked too light for this cold. Her cheeks were streaked with grime. Her eyelashes were clumped from tears. Her lips were tinged blue, and her hands were pulled tight around her knees like she was trying to make herself smaller than fear. Pepper crawled straight into her lap and pressed his body against her, shaking hard but refusing to leave. The girl clutched the puppy without thinking, like her hands had been searching for something warm and finally found it. Cole's chest tightened. He kept his voice quiet, steady, the way you speak to someone standing on the edge. "Hey," he said. "You're okay. I'm here." The girl's eyes flicked to Ranger, then back to Cole. Ranger stayed still, calm and controlled, head slightly lowered. He looked at the girl the way a good dog looks at a frightened person. Not demanding, not crowding, just present. The girl swallowed, her throat working like it hurt. She did not answer right away. Her fear was the kind that taught children to measure the world in consequences. Cole gave her space, but not distance. His face, with its square jaw and trimmed beard, did not soften into a smile. Smiles could feel fake in places like this. Instead, he made his eyes warm on purpose. "What's your name?" he asked. Her voice came out thin. "Emily." "Emily," Cole repeated, like saying it again made it real. "I'm Cole. This is Ranger. He's with me." Emily tightened her grip on Pepper. Her gaze darted upward, toward the ceiling. Cole followed her eyes. The tunnel above them was only concrete, but sound traveled in strange ways down here. He heard it a second later. Footsteps. Not close yet, but moving. 2 sets, maybe more. Slow and searching. A man's voice rolled down the tunnel, rough and impatient. "Where'd she go?" Emily flinched like the sound had hit her. Cole felt a familiar cold settle behind his ribs, the kind that used to arrive before contact in places with no streetlights and no mercy. He did not let it show. He raised one finger gently, asking for silence. Emily nodded once, fast and scared. Pepper trembled but stayed quiet. That mattered. A puppy that frightened would usually cry out. Pepper did not. Pepper watched Cole like he was waiting for the next instruction. Ranger shifted to the side, placing his body between the gap and the open tunnel. Still no barking. Just position. Just protection. Cole leaned in, keeping his voice barely above breath. "Are they looking for you?" Emily's eyes filled again. She nodded, then whispered, "They're up there. They said they were taking me to my mom." Cole did not ask more. Not now. The details could wait. The danger could not. The footsteps grew louder. The flashlight beam came next, sweeping across the tunnel wall like a pale knife. The light cut over the water, over the trash, over the concrete, getting closer to the corner. Cole's mind moved fast and clean. He measured distances. He counted seconds. He tracked the angle of the light. He looked at Ranger. Ranger's ears were high, eyes locked forward, breathing quiet. Ranger was ready. But Ranger would not escalate unless Cole told him to. That was what made him reliable. Cole shifted his body so he blocked the gap. He lowered his shoulders slightly, letting his posture say what his voice would not. Not here. Not tonight. Emily pressed Pepper's head against her chest as if she could make the puppy disappear. Pepper's eyes stayed open. His small body shook, but his gaze was steady, almost stubborn. Cole felt something twist inside him. Pepper had led him down here. Pepper had found help. Pepper had not given up. Cole remembered a different night, a different choice, and the way silence can become regret. He did not have time to repeat that mistake. The beam of light slid closer. The footsteps slowed, as if the men above had sensed something. Cole's left knee throbbed as he shifted his weight, but he kept his breathing even. He could not afford panic. Panic makes noise. Noise makes mistakes. Emily whispered, almost too quiet to hear. "Please." Cole nodded once, just enough to reassure her. "Stay behind me," he whispered back. "No matter what happens." Ranger's tail stayed still. His eyes did not blink. The light hit the bins. Shadows jumped across the wall. The men were almost at the bend. And Cole understood, with a calm that felt like steel, that the next minute would decide everything. No room for mistakes. Wind rattled the bridge joints above, and meltwater tapped the tunnel ceiling like a slow countdown. The air down here felt colder now, as if the darkness had noticed it was being challenged. Cole Bennett stayed between Emily and the open tunnel, his shoulders squared in his navy mid-thigh winter coat. The red and black flannel at his collar looked almost too ordinary for what was happening, like a piece of home carried into a place that had none. His left knee throbbed as he shifted his weight, but he kept his stance steady. He had learned long ago that pain could be managed. Fear was the real enemy. Ranger stood slightly ahead and to the side, angled like a door that refused to open. The German shepherd's black and tan coat blended into shadow, but his upright ears and amber-brown eyes did not. A simple vest marked him as a service dog, clear lettering that meant nothing to criminals and everything to Cole. Ranger did not bark. Ranger did not show teeth. Ranger watched, and he waited for Cole's decision. The flashlight beam returned, brighter now, sweeping closer. Then the men rounded the bend. The first one was stocky and heavy through the shoulders, mid-30s, with a rough complexion and stubble that made his face look permanently irritated. His beanie sat low, and his eyes carried the confidence of someone used to pushing people around. He moved like he owned whatever space he entered, even a tunnel that smelled like rust. This was Mike Donnelly, the kind of man who believed volume could replace authority. Behind him came a leaner man, late 20s, restless in his movements. He had sharp features, a twitchy glance that never stopped scanning, and hands that looked too ready to grab. He held a flashlight and a length of rope. The rope told Cole everything he needed to know. This was Eric Halstead, the impulsive one, the one likely to act first and think later. Mike's flashlight landed on Cole and froze there. For half a second, both men simply stared. Nobody expected to find a tall, broad-shouldered stranger down here, especially one who stood calm in the beam instead of shrinking back. Nobody expected the silent German shepherd beside him, steady as stone. Mike lifted his chin. "Who the hell are you?" Cole kept his voice low and even. "That depends on who you are." Eric's eyes flicked toward Ranger. The dog did not move. That stillness made Eric uneasy, as if he could not read what would happen next. Mike tightened his grip on the light. "Move. This doesn't involve you." Cole did not step aside. He did not raise his voice. His dark brown eyes, warm by default, sharpened into something colder. "It involves me now," Cole said. "Turn around and walk out." Mike laughed once, short and ugly. "Or what?" Cole glanced at the rope, then back at Mike. "Or you make this worse than it needs to be." Eric shifted, impatient. "Stop talking. She's here. I heard her." Emily flinched behind Cole. Pepper pressed closer to her lap, trembling but quiet. Cole held up a hand, palm out, not as a threat, but as a boundary. "Back up." Mike's smile faded. "You alone down here, hero?" Cole answered without blinking. "No." Ranger took one slow step forward. Only one. Ears high, eyes locked. Not aggression. Control. Eric's confidence cracked. He glanced at Mike as if asking permission to be afraid. Mike tried to recover. "That dog won't do anything. It's just a pet." Cole's voice stayed calm. "That dog is trained. I suggest you act like you understand what that means." Eric made a sharp sound of irritation, then moved. Not toward Cole's face, not toward Ranger, toward the gap where Emily hid. It was fast, reckless, exactly what Cole expected from a man built on impulse. Ranger moved first. No barking, no chaos. Ranger slid into Eric's path with perfect timing, placing his body between Eric and the child. The German shepherd's posture changed in a way words could not capture. A quiet warning. A controlled wall. Eric stumbled half a step, forced to stop, suddenly aware that the dog's silence was not weakness. Eric lifted the rope as if to swing it aside. Cole closed the distance in one hard motion, driving his shoulder into Eric's chest and pinning him against the tunnel wall. Metal rang softly as Eric hit the concrete edge. Cole felt pain flare in his left knee, but he did not loosen his hold. His jaw clenched, beard tight against his cheek. The silver at his temples caught the flashlight beam for a second, like frost. "Don't," Cole said. One word, final. Mike surged forward. Ranger angled again, blocking Mike's line without touching him. That was the difference between a dog that panics and a dog that understands restraint. Mike hesitated, confused by the way Ranger controlled space without making a sound. Cole used that hesitation. He turned his head slightly, just enough to speak to Emily without taking his eyes off the men. "Emily. Now." Emily didn't move at first. Fear had glued her in place. Pepper broke it. The small black puppy wriggled free and darted into the tunnel, then stopped and looked back, eyes bright and urgent. "Come on." Emily swallowed hard and crawled out from behind the bins, clutching her torn backpack. Cole pointed down the tunnel with 2 fingers. "Follow Pepper. Keep going. Don't stop." Emily's legs shook as she stood. She nodded once, then ran, half stumbling, half sprinting. Ranger pivoted instantly, moving to Emily's side. Still silent, still steady. He escorted her like a shadow with teeth it did not need to show. Mike shouted something raw and angry, but he did not chase. He could not. Ranger's presence made the tunnel feel smaller, like there was no clean path through. Eric struggled against Cole's hold, breath loud now, fear turning into rage. "You're dead, man!" Cole leaned closer, voice low enough that only Eric could hear. "Not today." Cole released Eric with a controlled shove, not to punish him, but to buy time. Eric staggered, catching himself. Mike's flashlight swung toward the running child. Cole stepped into the beam, blocking it. For one long second, Cole stood alone between danger and escape, his knee burning, his heart steady, his mind focused on a single truth. Emily was moving. Pepper was leading. Ranger was guarding. Cole had done his part. Now he just had to hold the line a little longer. Escape into the snow. Snow thickened above the waterfront, turning the streetlights into pale halos. The wind off Lake Erie hit like a hand to the face, sharp and steady, as if the city wanted to push everyone back indoors. Cole Bennett climbed out of the storm drain with a controlled urgency, boots finding the icy edge before his weight followed. His navy mid-thigh coat was dusted with grit. The red and black flannel beneath it looked darker now, damp at the collar. His left knee flared as he straightened, a familiar burn that tried to steal his balance for half a second. He refused to give it that second. Ranger was already up. The German shepherd's black and tan body moved like a shadow with intention, ears upright, amber-brown eyes scanning the underpass and the open road beyond. A simple vest marked him as a service dog, the lettering catching the streetlight when he turned. Ranger stayed close to Emily, not touching her, not crowding her, just placing himself where danger would have to go through him first. Emily stumbled into the open air and dropped to her knees in the snow, gasping. Her cheeks were blotched red from cold, her lips cracked. Her eyes were wide and wet, trying to make sense of the world above ground after the tunnel's darkness. She clutched her torn backpack like it was the only proof she still belonged to herself. Pepper, the small black puppy, circled her once and pressed his body against her side. He shook from the cold, but he stayed. That was the only kind of courage that mattered. Cole knelt beside Emily, careful of his knee, and pulled his navy coat open just enough to block the wind from her face. He did not overpromise. He did not use soft words that would collapse under pressure. "You're safe right now," he said. "Stay with Ranger." Emily swallowed hard. Her voice came out thin, like it had been scraped raw. "They're coming." "I know," Cole said. He looked back at the storm drain opening. Darkness pooled there like oil. For a moment, everything went quiet except the wind and the distant groan of a freight ship horn on the lake. Then the sound came. A metal clank. A foot scraping concrete. Ranger's posture tightened. Not aggressive, alert. Ready. Cole stood, tall and solid in the streetlight, the angular planes of his face set into calm focus. The trimmed beard and the silver at his temples made him look older than 40 in this light, older in the way winter can make a man look. His dark brown eyes sharpened, not with anger, but with refusal. He placed himself between Emily and the drain. Behind him, Pepper lifted his head. Emily's hands trembled as she hugged the puppy close. Two figures surfaced from a side access near the underpass. Mike Donnelly came first, stocky and heavy in a dark coat, breath steaming as he stepped into the cold. His beanie sat low. His eyes found Emily instantly, like a hook. His face held that same pushy certainty, the belief that fear was a tool meant to be used. Eric Halstead followed, lean and restless, rope still in hand. His gaze flicked to Ranger, then away. Eric's confidence had taken damage in the tunnel, and it showed in the way his shoulders sat tighter, in the way he kept recalculating the distance between himself and the dog. Mike's mouth curled. There she is. Cole did not move. That's enough. Mike took a step forward. Move aside. Cole's voice stayed level. Not happening. Eric hissed. We don't have time for this. Cole could hear his own pulse, steady and slow. He had been in worse situations with louder weapons, but the stakes felt heavier here, because the thing behind him wasn't a mission. It was a child. Mike tried to angle around Cole, eyes locked on Emily. Ranger shifted. One step, silent, placing his body where Mike wanted to go. The service dog vest was visible now, but the message wasn't the letters. The message was the dog's stillness. Mike stopped short, frustration flashing across his face. Call him off. Cole didn't look at Ranger. He didn't need to. Ranger's doing his job. Eric lifted the rope slightly, testing the moment. You think you're some kind of hero? Cole's jaw flexed. No, I'm just the first person who didn't look away. That sentence landed harder than Cole expected. It wasn't aimed at them. It was aimed at himself. Mike stepped forward again, trying to force it. That was when the street behind them lit up. Red and blue lights bounced off the snow and the metal beams of the bridge. Tires crunched. A patrol car swung around the corner, engine low and urgent. A uniformed officer stepped out, mid to late 30s, tall with a broad stance that said training and habit. His face was serious, eyes quick, taking in Emily on the ground, Cole standing guard, the two men near the drain. His winter duty uniform was neat, his tone direct. Police, the officer called. Hands where I can see them. Mike's face shifted, anger turning to calculation. Eric's eyes widened. For a second, Mike looked like he might try something anyway, but Ranger's gaze pinned him. Not threatening, certain. Mike's courage was loud, not deep. Mike turned and ran. Eric ran too, stumbling once on the ice, catching himself, then sprinting toward the shadows under the bridge. The officer moved to pursue, then stopped, seeing Emily collapse into a tight curl of shaking. He looked at Cole. You okay? Cole nodded once. She's cold. She needs medical. The officer's radio crackled. He spoke fast, controlled. Child recovered. Suspects fleeing. Need units to sweep the underpass. Cole crouched again beside Emily, guiding her up carefully. Emily clutched Pepper, eyes fixed on the direction the men ran, as if she expected them to come back. They're gone, Cole said. He didn't say it like a wish. He said it like a fact he was willing to defend. Emily's breath hitched. They said they'd take me to my mom. Cole kept his voice calm. You did the right thing hiding. Pepper did the right thing finding help. Emily looked down at the puppy. Pepper's small body shook, but he pressed his nose into her sleeve and stayed there, as if he was telling her, I didn't leave. Cole felt the cold air sting his eyes, not from the wind, from memory. He glanced at Ranger. The German shepherd stood close, steady, guarding Emily with quiet devotion. Cole had spent years believing strength meant pushing feelings down until they stopped moving. But watching a puppy refuse to leave a frightened child, Cole understood something painful and simple. Loyalty wasn't a word. It was a decision made in the worst weather, in the darkest places, when leaving would be easier. The officer returned from a quick scan, frustration in his face. They got a head start, but we'll find them. Cole nodded. I'll give a statement after she's warm. The officer softened slightly, then looked at Ranger. Good dog. Ranger didn't react. Praise wasn't what he was here for. Cole guided Emily toward the patrol car, Pepper tucked against her, Ranger at her other side like a living wall. The snow kept falling, steady and indifferent. But Cole felt something shift inside him, small and stubborn, like a spark refusing to die. Not this time. Not again. Room to start over. By the time the ambulance lights faded down the Cleveland street, the snow had softened into a steady, quiet fall. The wind still came off Lake Erie, but it no longer felt like a shove. It felt like the city exhaling. Cole Bennett stood outside the emergency entrance with Ranger at his side. His navy mid-thigh coat was still dusted with tunnel grit, and the red and black flannel at his collar looked like a stubborn piece of warmth refusing to be swallowed by winter. The muscles in his shoulders were tight from holding back panic more than holding back violence. His left knee ached in a deep, familiar way, the kind that reminded him pain was patient. Ranger, 5 years old and black and tan, stayed close. Upright ears tracked the automatic doors. Amber-brown eyes read the world the way Cole used to read a battlefield. A simple vest marked him as a service dog, and the staff gave the pair the kind of space people give to quiet competence. Emily had been taken inside minutes earlier, wrapped in blankets, Pepper tucked against her like a living hot water bottle. The small black puppy had stopped trembling the moment Emily's hands warmed enough to hold him properly. That was when Cole knew Pepper wasn't just frightened. Pepper had been working. Cole watched the glass doors slide open and closed, open and closed. He kept expecting to hear shouting, to see Mike Donnelly or Eric Halstead returning like bad weather. That was how danger often worked. It left, then circled back. But the streets outside remained calm. The officer from the scene, Daniel Price, had taken Cole's brief statement, promised more units were searching the underpass, then vanished into the night with the same urgency he had arrived with. Now the noise was different. Hospital noise. Fluorescent lights, rolling carts, low voices. Practical concern. A nurse stepped out and approached Cole with the brisk kindness of someone who had seen too much to be dramatic. She looked about 30, with dark hair pulled into a tight bun and tired eyes that still held empathy. Her badge read Megan Hart. "Mr. Bennett?" she asked, voice calm, steady. Cole nodded. How is she? Megan's expression softened. Cold, scared, exhausted, but she's stable. We're warming her up, checking for dehydration. She keeps asking about her puppy. Cole exhaled once, slow. Pepper's with her. Megan glanced at Ranger, then back at Cole. Good. That helps. She hesitated, then added, She also asked if you're staying. Cole looked at the floor for half a second. He had spent years making his life small on purpose. Staying meant responsibility. Staying meant attachment. Staying meant you might lose something. Then he remembered Pepper on the road in the snow, refusing to move. I'm staying, Cole said. Megan nodded as if she respected that answer. You can wait inside. There's a family room down the hall. Cole followed her into the warmth. Ranger moved beside him, silent, nails clicking lightly against tile. People noticed the service dog vest, then looked away, grateful for rules that told them how not to intrude. They reached a small waiting area with worn chairs and an old coffee machine that smelled like it had done too many night shifts. Cole sat down slowly, knees stiff, and leaned forward with his elbows on his thighs. Ranger lay at his feet, close enough to touch, close enough to anchor him. Cole stared at his hands. He'd used these hands for work that most people didn't want to picture. He'd used them to fix locks, carry boxes, and keep his life quiet. Tonight, those same hands had pulled a child out of a tunnel and held a line long enough for her to run. He should have felt proud. Instead, what he felt was something more complicated, heavier, and strangely clean. Regret. Not the fresh kind, the old kind that had hardened in him for years. A missed call, a promise to call back, a silence that lasted too long. Cole had learned how to function with guilt the way some men learn to function with a limp. You adjust. You hide it. You tell yourself it's fine until you forget what fine ever felt like. But Pepper had cracked something open, just by showing what it meant to stay. Megan returned a few minutes later with a cup of water and a simple update. Emily's doing better. She's asking for you again. Cole stood immediately, knee protesting, and followed. Emily lay in a small room, wrapped in blankets up to her chin. Her cheeks had regained color. Her eyes were still wide, but they weren't glassy with shock anymore. Pepper was curled in the crook of her arm, black fur against white hospital sheets. The puppy's eyes were half closed, exhausted at last. Emily's gaze landed on Cole and held. Her voice was small. You didn't leave. Cole felt the words hit somewhere deep. He stepped closer, but kept his body relaxed, non-threatening. No, he said. I didn't. Emily's fingers tightened around Pepper. He didn't either. Cole looked at Pepper, then at Ranger standing quietly near the door, ears forward, watchful. Two animals, different sizes, different instincts, both doing the same thing, being there. Cole nodded. Pepper's brave. Emily swallowed. Are they going to come back? Cole shook his head once, firm. Not here. Not tonight. He did not say it like a hope. He said it like a vow. Emily's shoulders eased a fraction. She stared at him for a long moment, then whispered, They said they'd take me to my mom. Cole kept his voice gentle. Sometimes people lie. But you listened to the part inside you that knew something was wrong. That matters.
Emily blinked hard. A tear slipped out, then another. Cole didn't rush her. He'd learned that tears were not weakness. Tears were proof someone had survived something. Megan stepped in quietly.
We found a number in her backpack. We reached her family. They're on the way. Emily's breath hitched, relief and fear tangling together. Cole nodded. Good. Megan looked at Cole. When they arrive, the police will take statements. You did the right thing, Mr. Bennett. Cole gave a small nod, but his throat felt tight. He turned slightly, eyes catching Ranger's. The German Shepherd's amber-brown gaze was steady, warm. Ranger didn't need words. Ranger simply stayed. An hour later, Emily's family arrived. Cole kept his presence calm and minimal, letting the room belong to them. He watched Emily's shoulders drop when she saw them. He watched Pepper's head lift, then settle again once the crisis felt truly over. Later, after the paperwork and the questions, Cole walked out into the parking lot with Ranger, snow still falling in soft sheets. The city lights reflected off wet pavement. Cars hissed by. Life moved on like it always did. Cole stood under the glow of a lamp and realized his chest felt different. Not lighter exactly, more open. He pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over a name he hadn't called in too long. Hannah Bennett, his sister. He'd ignored her messages for months at a time, always with a reason that sounded practical until you admitted it wasn't. He was tired. He was busy. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to feel. But the truth was simpler. He didn't want to fail again. Cole pressed call. It rang once. Twice. Hannah answered, cautious. Cole? He swallowed. Hey, it's me. Silence, then a breath. Are you okay? Cole looked down at Ranger, the service dog vest visible beneath the falling snow. Ranger's eyes didn't judge. They simply held him steady. I'm okay, Cole said. But I need to talk. Can we get coffee soon? Another pause. Then Hannah's voice softened, careful but hopeful. Yeah. Yes. I'd like that. Cole closed his eyes for a second. He felt the cold on his lashes. He felt the ache in his knee. He felt the quiet presence of Ranger beside him. And he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Room. Room to start over. Room to be the man he should have been the first time someone called and needed him. Cole opened his eyes and looked at the snow falling through the light. Thank you, he whispered, not to Hannah, not to the night, but to the lesson that had come in the shape of a small black puppy refusing to move. Ranger's tail gave one slow wag, and for the first time in years, Cole walked toward home without feeling like he was walking back into a prison. Sometimes a miracle does not arrive with thunder or a bright sign in the sky. Sometimes it shows up as a small black puppy in the snow, refusing to move until the right person finally stops. Faith can look like that. Not perfect words, not big speeches. Just a quiet nudge that says, turn back, pay attention. Help. Many people believe God uses the smallest messengers to reach the hardest hearts. A child's mitten on ice. A dog that will not leave. A man who finally chooses to stay. And suddenly, what looked like an ordinary day becomes a turning point. In everyday life, miracles often come disguised as interruptions. The neighbor who calls at the wrong time. the stranger who needs a hand, the moment you feel prompted to check on someone you have been avoiding. We do not always understand why those moments happen, but later, looking back, it is hard not to see a pattern. A kind of gentle guidance. A door opened at the exact second it needed to open. This story is a reminder that it is never too late to answer the call. Never too late to choose love over pride, presence over comfort, and compassion over fear. If God can place courage inside a trembling puppy, then He can also place new strength inside a tired heart. If this story touched you, please share it so kindness can travel farther than the cold. Comment and tell us about a miracle in your own life. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. May God bless you and keep you safe.